In the northern keep of Blackmoor, invisibility was not magic. It was survival. Servants learned it before they learned to read. Walk softly. Speak little. Never lift your eyes unless commanded. And above all, never let the Alpha King notice you. They said he could. Sent fear from across a hall. They said he had rejected 12 noble brides without explanation. They said something ancient lived behind his silence. And so Elara kept her head lowered. She had arrived at Blackmoor at 14, traded by distant relatives to settle a debt that no one ever fully explained to her. By 18, she had mastered the art of becoming. Background. She moved through corridors like a shadow stitched into stone. Her dresses were plain. Her voice was quiet. Existence unremarkable. Exactly as it should be. The castle was preparing for the autumn conclave, a gathering of noble houses from across the realm. Potential brides would arrive in silk and jewels. Courtiers would whisper. Alliances would be weighed like weapons, and the Alpha King would watch. Elara was assigned to the West Wing, the one reserved for honored guests. She spent her mornings polishing silver and her evenings scrubbing marble floors, until her reflection blurred into nothing. She preferred it that way until the night she made a mistake. Storm had come without warning. Wind battered the castle towers. Rain struck the stained glass windows like thrown stones. Servants rushed to secure shutters while nobles complained about damp hems and ruined hair. Elara was carrying fresh linens down the southern corridor when she heard a low growl. Not human. Not entirely wolf. She froze. Everyone in Blackmoor knew the stories. On certain nights, when storms tangled with the moon, the king did not remain entirely contained. The corridor ahead was dark. Torches had burned low. Thunder shook the walls. She should have turned back. Didn't. Another sound, this time a sharp exhale. And then she saw him. At the far end of the corridor stood the Alpha King. No crown. No court. No witnesses. Him. Tall, broad-shouldered, cloaked in black fur darkened by rain. His hair, damp and unbound, fell against his forehead. His jaw was tight, as if holding something inside by force. His eyes, they were not fully human. Faint gold burned beneath the surface. Elara's breath caught. She lowered her gaze immediately. "I'm sorry, Your Majesty," she whispered. "I didn't mean to intrude." Silence. Heavy. Watching. Could feel it, the weight of his attention pressing against her skin. Took one step forward. The stone seemed to echo beneath his boots. "What is your name?" he asked. No one had ever told her his voice would sound like that. Not cruel, not gentle, but restrained. Like something leashed too tightly. She swallowed. "Elara." The silence shifted. Something changed in the air. He inhaled slowly. "Elara." He repeated. Her name had never sounded dangerous before. Now it did. Kept her head bowed. He moved. Closer. Too close. She could see the leather stitching of his armor from beneath her lashes. The faint scar across his knuckles. The way his hands flexed slightly as if resisting instinct. "You are not assigned to this wing," he said. "No, Your Majesty." "Then why are you here?" She hesitated. "Because I don't want to be invisible anymore." But she would never say that. "I was delivering linens." A pause. Another. Inhale. "You smell of lavender." Her heart stumbled. "It's the soap." "Your Majesty." Silence again. Then, "Look at me." Her pulse thundered in her ears. Servants did not look at kings. especially not this one. Slowly, carefully, she lifted her gaze and met his. Gold flickered in the depths of his irises. Not rage. Recognition. He studied her face as if committing it to memory. You should not be in this corridor tonight, he said. Quietly, I'm leaving. But she did not move. Neither did he. Thunder cracked overhead. For a moment, just one she saw. Something in his expression that wasn't authority. Loneliness. It startled her. She took a small step back. I meant no disrespect. You didn't. His voice lowered. The others will. Footsteps echoed in the distance, guards returning from the courtyard. King straightened immediately. The golden flicker in his eyes dimmed. You were never here, he said. Double quotes. Yes, Your Majesty. She turned. Walked. Did not run. But she felt his gaze on her back the entire way down the corridor. The next morning, everything was different. Not in the castle. In her. Every sound felt sharper. Every movement heavier. She told no one. She avoided the southern wing entirely. And yet, at midday, as she carried a tray through the great hall, she felt it again. That weight, that attention. Did not look. She would not look, but she heard his voice. A hall full of nobles and advisors. Across conversation and clinking. GOBLETS. Clear. Controlled. Unmistakable. PLAR. The tray trembled in her hands. Silence. Spread outward like ink in water. Nobles turned. Froze. No one understood. Because no one knew her. She was supposed to stay invisible. The Alpha King stood at the head of the hall, eyes fixed on her. Come here. And in that moment she realized something far more dangerous than being seen. He already knew her name. The great hall did not breathe. It held its breath. Elara felt every pair of eyes on her as she stepped forward, the silver tray trembling slightly in her hands. She kept her gaze lowered, but the silence pressed against her skin like frost. Alpha King did not repeat himself. He didn't need to. She stopped 3 paces from the raised platform. My king, she said softly. His advisors stood behind him. Noble daughters in silk lined the hall like jeweled statues. Every one of them had arrived hoping to become queen. And yet, he was looking at a servant. At her. Come closer, he said. Murmur rippled through the hall. Elara. Obeyed. 1 step. 2. Close enough now to see the faint shadow beneath his eyes. Close enough to notice the tension in his jaw, as though something inside him strained constantly against invisible chains. You dropped this last night, he said. He extended his hand. In his palm rested something small. White. A single lavender thread. Her breath caught. It must have snagged on his cloak in the corridor during the storm. He had kept it. I apologize, Your Majesty, she whispered. For what? Disturbing you. You didn't disturb me. The room grew colder. His gaze sharpened slightly. Not anger, not cruelty. Possession. You will serve in the East Wing from now on, he said. Her head lifted instinctively. The East Wing. The private wing. His wing. Gasps broke the silence. My king. One of the noble women protested softly. The East Wing is reserved. He did not look at her. Is that a problem? He asked calmly. The noblewoman went silent. Elara's pulse roared in her ears. I am only a servant, she said carefully. I am aware. His voice lowered. Do you object? She knew better than to refuse a king, but this was not simple service. This was proximity, and proximity to the Alpha King was dangerous. No. Your Majesty. Something unreadable flickered across his face. Good. He turned to his court as if nothing unusual had occurred. Continue. Conversation resumed, but not naturally. It felt forced. Tense. Elara stepped back slowly, aware that every noble in the hall now knew her face. She had been invisible yesterday. Now she was marked. That night, she moved her belongings. The East Wing corridors were quieter, dimmer, guarded. The air smelled faintly of cedarwood and steel. Her new quarters were modest but closer to the king's private chambers than any servant had ever been allowed. She should have felt honored. She felt hunted. The storm returned 2 nights later. Not as violent, but enough. Elara was folding linens near the fireplace in the East Wing when she felt it again. That shift in the air. The heat. Scent. Not smoke. Not rain. Wolf. She turned slowly. He stood in the doorway. No crown. No court. Just the man. His hair was loose again. His cloak absent. His shirt unlaced slightly at the throat, as if breathing required effort. You are not afraid, he observed. She hesitated. I am careful. A corner of his mouth lifted. Faintly, careful is wise. He stepped inside. The air thickened. The golden hue in his eyes was stronger. Tonight. Do you know why storms unsettle me? He asked. No, Your Majesty. Because the barrier weakens. Her heart skipped. What barrier? He looked at her then, not as a king looks at a servant, but as something older looks at something chosen. There is a curse bound to my blood, he said quietly. It strengthens my kingdom. It protects my people. And it demands restraint. Thunder rolled outside. His fingers flexed at his sides. The storm makes restraint difficult. Elara swallowed. You could have dismissed me from this wing. I could have. But you didn't. No. Silence stretched between them. Not empty. Heavy. Why? She asked before she could stop herself. He stepped closer. Close enough that she could see the faint pulse in his throat. Because your scent quiets it. Her breath left her. The wolf? She whispered. He nodded once. I have searched for years for something that could do that. And you think it is me? I know it is. The words settled between them like fate. She had come to this castle too. Disappear. Instead she had become the one thing, anchoring a king to himself. You should not be near me, he said softly. Why? Because if the restraint breaks. His hand lifted, hesitated, then dropped. I do not know what I would become. She felt the truth of it. The danger, the power, the loneliness. You are not only the curse, she said. Carefully. His eyes flickered. You do not know that. I know what I saw. And what was that? A man who did not wish to be alone in a storm. Silence. Then something shifted. Tension in his shoulders eased slightly. You are not like the others, he said. I am invisible. He stepped closer still, not to me. Her pulse thundered. Should step back. She didn single quotes T. outside. Lightning split the sky. Inside. The space between them narrowed to breath. You must understand, he said quietly. Voice roughened now. If I claim a bride, it will not be for alliance. Then for what? For control. His gaze dropped briefly to her lips, before lifting again. For survival. She felt it then. Not hunger. Not dominance. Recognition. The beginning of something neither of them had chosen. A knock. shattered the moment. My king? A guard called from beyond the door. The king stepped back immediately, the gold in his eyes dimming again. Leave us, he commanded. Silence returned. He looked at her one last time. You will remain in the east wing. Yes, your majesty. And Elara? Yes, if anyone questions it. His gaze sharpened. They answer to me. He turned and left. The storm raged on. But for the first time she did not feel invisible. She felt seen. And that was far more dangerous. The court began whispering before dawn. Elara felt it in the corridors. Conversations stopped when she passed. Servants avoided her eyes. Noble daughters who had once ignored her now studied her, as if she were a stain on silk, or a threat. By midday, the summons came. The king requests your presence in the grand hall. Not to serve. To stand. That was new. The grand hall was fuller than she had ever seen it. Lords from the northern provinces, daughters in velvet and gold, generals, advisors, and at the center, the Alpha King, crowned, armored, unyielding. A ceremonial circle of ancient runes burned faintly into the stone floor, glowing in pale blue. The claiming circle. Her pulse stumbled. This was not court business. This was selection. 100 noblewomen had arrived this season hoping to stand where she now stood. But Elara stood alone. Bread. Edd. In servant grade. Vulnerable. The High Chancellor stepped forward. Your Majesty, he said carefully, the council insists that tradition be honored. A bride must be chosen from bloodlines of strength, from alliances that protect the realm. The king did not look at him. The realm is protected by the curse, the chancellor pressed, which requires balance. A union of equal standing. Equal. The king interrupted. His voice was calm. Too calm. The torches flickered. The curse does not respond to titles. Silence rippled outward. The king stepped down from the throne. Every movement, measured. Controlled. He entered the glowing circle. The runes flared brighter beneath his boots. The curse responds, he said quietly, to what quiets it. His gaze lifted. Not scanning the hall, not considering options, finding her. Elara. The name landed like thunder. She had never heard him say it in public. Gasps broke through the court. The noble daughters stiffened. The chancellor paled. She is a servant, someone hissed. She is nothing. The king turned. And for the first time, the restraint slipped. His eyes glowed gold. Not violently, but undeniably. She is not nothing. The air thickened. The runes flared. Elara, step forward. Her legs felt carved from stone. This was the moment she had. Feared. Not because of punishment, but because visibility meant vulnerability. Once seen, you could not return to shadow. She stepped into the circle. The runes ignited brighter beneath her feet. A collective intake of breath filled the hall. The glow did not burn her. It did not reject her. It responded. The king's jaw tightened slightly. You see? He said quietly to the council. It recognizes her. The chancellor shook his head. This is not how alliances are formed. No, the king agreed. It is how bonds are. He faced her fully now, not as sovereign to servant, but as man to woman. You were supposed to remain unseen, he said softly. Her voice barely held steady. That was the plan. A faint shadow of a smile touched his mouth. You failed. I did not mean to. And yet, his hand lifted slightly. Not touching her, waiting. The entire court watched. Waiting for her to bow. To refuse. To tremble. Instead she looked directly into his eyes. I do not want your throne, she said clearly. Murmurs exploded. The king's gaze sharpened. What do you want? Truth. The hall fell silent again. If this is about control, she continued, steady now, about the curse needing something from me, then say it. If this is about power, say that too. His chest rose slowly. You think I would stand here, he said, voice low but carrying, and defy my counsel for convenience? She did not answer, because she needed him to. The glow in the runes shifted, less violent now, more steady. He stepped closer. So hear it clearly, he said. I have rejected princesses. I have rejected alliances. I have rejected power dressed as affection. His voice deepened. But I have not rejected you. A crack ran through the silence. He lowered his voice just enough that only she could fully hear. You quiet the storm. Her breath caught. You anchor the wolf. The gold in his eyes dimmed, slightly controlled. You see me. Not the crown. Not the curse. Him. The court no longer mattered. The politics no longer mattered. Only this choice. Then say it, she whispered. The faintest shift of something vulnerable crossed his face. Not weakness. Risk. Elara Vale, he said clearly, voice echoing against stone and steel. I choose you. The runes surged, brilliant gold now, not blue. Not burning. Binding. The court erupted. This is madness. She has no bloodline. She is a servant. The king turned toward them, and the wolf looked back through his eyes. She is mine, he said. Not possession. Not dominance. Declaration. The glow stabilized. The curse did not flare. It did not rage. It settled. The chancellor stared at the circle, in stunned silence. It has never responded like this, he whispered. The king's hand finally reached hers. This time he did not hesitate. Do you accept? He asked her. Not command. Not assumption. Question. She looked around the hall. At the nobles who once ignored her. At the servants who once passed. Her unseen. At the throne she never sought. Then back at him. If I say yes, she said softly, it will not be because you are king. His grip tightened slightly. Good. It will be because you chose me without hiding. A beat. And because I choose you. The runes flared once bright, steady, complete. The bond sealed. Not by bloodline. Not by strategy. By recognition. The storm outside finally broke into gentle rain. The court fell quiet. Not defeated. Witnessing. The Alpha King had not claimed a bride for power. He had chosen the one woman who had never tried to be seen. And in doing so, he made her impossible to ignore.